Hello,
Hi.
this is Riri with R&F Homestead. I wanted to do a interview with Mr. Harris before he leaves. He's leaving Saturday. Today is Thursday, and I just want everybody to kind of get to know him. Where were you born?
I was born in Orange Park, Florida, which is just southwest of Jacksonville.
And where did you grow up?
Grew up mostly on St. Simon's Island, Brunswick, and then down around Frostproof, Florida.
Okay. Now, I remember you being at Frostproof.
Right.
Yeah, we went to school together.
Spent the first 12 years around St. Simon's, Brunswick, and Darien, Georgia. And then we moved down to Florida when I was 12 and stayed down there for quite a few years.
Yeah, they moved out there where we were at on Lake Patrick, right there at Alico, where my daddy and his daddy worked.
Right. They were both foremen over the Orange Grove crews there, taking care of the orange trees.
Yeah, and I loved living out there.
Yeah. I mean, at 12 and 13 years old, driving the trucks through the groves.
Yeah. Was Sam working then when you were out there?
I don't remember.
Because I know they let him work too.
I think that was after we left.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, he was a little bit grown then.
Yeah. It was kind of fun, getting to drive the tractors around through the groves and all the pickup truck, four-wheel drive trucks and things like that.
Yeah. I learned to drive in those orange groves. Daddy would, while he was working on the pump or something, he would put me in that truck, and it was standard shift.
Yes, they were.
And I had to learn to parallel park and all that out there in the grove, in that
was back
sand.
in the early 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, in the sand.
Yeah, automatic transmissions hadn't come in real good yet. They didn't
Yeah.
come in for another 6 or 8 years. And then everything started turning over to automatics.
Yeah.
People got a little lazy. I still prefer the standard transmissions in a truck. Now in a car, I like the automatic. But in a truck, I kind of still like that standard transmission. Because when you want to move a stump, you put it in low gear, you get the truck tension there, you go out there with the shovel and wiggle that stump. This is if you go on by yourself.
Yeah.
And it'll start easing up out of there, and then you can walk around and get back in the truck, give it a little gas, and pull it right out of the hole.
Yeah. Yeah. And we made
Because even if it pulls it out of the hole, you can still walk up and get in the truck in that first gear without the truck running off and hitting anything.
Yeah. We may have to do that with this rose bush out here.
Yeah.
What is one of your favorite memories?
That's a tough one. Because I enjoyed most of my childhood. I was raised with 5 sisters.
Oh, Lord.
And my parents did foster care a lot. So there was always 1 or 2 extra kids around the house.
What was that like?
I never really minded that because sometimes it was boys, sometimes it was girls. When it was girls, I'd be a little lonely, but when it was the boys, I'd have somebody to play with for a while because those girls would gang up and torture me.
Yeah.
Of course, I kind of earned that nickname, right?
Wasn't it one of the girls that made you break both of your arms?
Yes, when I was 10 years old, just before we came to Florida, we were living in Brunswick, Georgia, in a 3-story house.
I remember that house.
On the 3rd floor was my oldest sister's bedroom. And she used to sneak out at night. Well, I caught her sneaking out, and I was blackmailing her. She had to pay me $2 a week, or I was going to tell. Well, she missed a payment.
Uh-oh.
And I knew where she kept her money. Well, I waited for her to go out. I went upstairs, opened the drawer, got my $2, put it in my pocket, closed the drawer, went over to go out of the room, and she came back in.
Uh-oh.
And all she said was, "You remember what I told you?" As she grabbed the back of my shirt and my belt loop and run me straight over and threw me out the 3rd floor window.
Oh, good Lord.
The only thing that saved my life is there's a pine tree right outside that window. and I hit every limb going down that tree.
No wonder you broke both your arms.
I didn't actually break my arms until I hit the ground.
Oh.
Because I came off the last limb, flipped upside down, and was coming down head first.
Oh.
So I put my hands up to slow my fall.
Oh, bless your
And I
heart.
heard a snap. But I didn't think anything about it because I got up, I brushed myself off, and I was mad.
I bet
Throw
you
me out of a window, how dare you?
I know, right?
I go up to the front door and I grab a hold of the doorknob, and when I twisted it, my arm popped out of joint.
Oh.
Well,
God.
that didn't bug me. I reached up with the other hand, and when I twisted that doorknob, that arm popped out of joint.
Oh.
That's when I panicked.
Yeah.
Well, now, 4 of my sisters were standing in the window that overlooked the front door, because the house had kind of a rounded living room window there. It's a beautiful old house. Well, they're standing in that window laughing at me because they locked me out of the house.
Oh.
Until Tina realized that my arms didn't look right.
Uh-oh.
And she panicked, started screaming. That made the others look, and they realized, okay, he's hurt. We're in trouble.
Yeah.
Tina ran down the street because her first thought was go get Mom. Mom worked 10 blocks away. Lynn is just standing there panicking, screaming. Nancy was too young to really understand how hurt I was. And my parents had a good friend called Mr. Lastinger, and he did a lot of traveling, and my parents had a travel trailer in the back parked inside the barn that he spent the night in when he was up in Brunswick. Well, he happened to be there. Donna runs out the back door, bangs on his trailer, gets him up, because he had come in at like 6 a.m., and this is around noon.
Oh, okay.
And told her that, Donnie's broke his arms and we need help. Well, he come walking around the house, took one look at my arms and said, get in the car. He had a 68 Chevelle with a 396 engine. This thing was fast because this man did not drive at slow speeds. When he drove on a road trip, he was doing 100+ mile an hour everywhere.
Oh, wow.
But anyhow, he takes off down the road, passes Tina, and pulls into the parking lot where Mom works as Tina comes running into the parking lot.
Oh, wow.
Well, Mom's seeing Tina coming running from one direction and me sitting in a car and Mr. Lestinger with the other 3 girls, 4 girls, they're in the car, and it's like, what is going on? And I held my arms up. Well, Mom panicked.
Oh, gosh. Everybody's panicking.
And Mr. Lastinger's like, relax, let's get him to the emergency room.
Yeah.
And the entire trip there, I'm sitting there, my arms are hurting, and this car's got a fairly stiff suspension. And I would be saying, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, and he'd hit a bump. And it, slow down, slow down, slow down.
Bless your heart. I know that had to hurt.
Oh, the only good that came out of that, my dad realized that Donna caused this. He didn't know how or why, and nobody would ever squeal on each other. But he knew it was her fault.
Yeah.
So her punishment was she had to take care of me, which means feed me and so forth.
Oh.
Well, I made that extremely difficult. And after about 2 weeks, she walked up to the dining room table and she looked at Dad and she says, I don't care if you have to beat me every day for the rest of the
You just didn't say that.
Yes, she did. Well, she got a whipping for saying the word.
Yeah.
But Dad had already saw this coming. My father was a very smart man. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a spoon. It was a long teaspoon that you stir a glass of tea with. And he had welded a rod to the end of that so that I could stick that in the end of my cast and get that spoon to my mouth.
Bless your heart.
He'd just been waiting for the day that he was going to need it. And of course I had 12 weeks of, I didn't have to do any schoolwork. They'd ask me questions and I'd answer them, but I'd just sit in class all day. Because it's a little bit difficult to write when you got these heavy casts on.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I got my butt beat about 4 weeks in. The girls were tormenting me one day. They'd walk by and pop me upside the head or something and then take off down the hallway. Well, I'd had enough. I walked over to the banister at the end of the staircase and whacked that banister and peeled that cast off.
Oh, no, you did.
Well, when Mom got home, I didn't have the cast on anymore. Oh, just she tore my butt up and took me straight back to the emergency room, got to put it right back on.
Y'all are some wild children. Oh, Lord.
Because it wasn't too long after that, I figured out my revenge for the girls.
Oh.
I took all of their dolls,
No, you didn't.
pulled all the heads off of them, and went out and buried the heads. And refused to give them back.
Oh, no.
Took them about 3 weeks before I finally dug them back up and gave them back the doll heads. After that, they didn't torment me so bad.
That's good. Dang.
But that's not to say we didn't play pranks on each other.
Yeah.
I was going to play one on Mom one day. So I found a pretty good sized grass snake. And it wasn't doing too good. It had gotten run over in the road. So I take it and I lay it across the sidewalk and had it curled like it was slithering across. And I figure, okay, when one of the girls walks out, they'll see the snake and scream. Well, the girls weren't the first one out the door. Mom was. And she is deathly afraid of snakes. I heard her come out the door, and I heard the clop, and it's like, that doesn't sound right. And then I heard, Don Harris Jr.? Because she screamed first.
Uh-huh.
And
She knew who done it.
Yes, she did. I did not come out from under that porch until Pop came home and looked up under there and told me, get out here now.
Uh-oh. He done heard the story.
He never whipped me, but he took me out to the shed back there and he sat down and said, that is the funniest thing you have done yet. He said, but don't you ever tell your mama I said that.
Oh, no.
Because as soon as we got in and he shut that door, he burst out laughing. Because he knew I was trying to scare one of the girls.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on getting Mom because I knew what would happen.
Yeah.
But he also understood a good prank is worth it. Oh, like that. I really don't have a favorite memory. All of them are good.
Yeah.
Like I said, I enjoyed my childhood. I mean, you got up in the morning. If you didn't have school, you out the door you went. You didn't come back till lunch.
Yeah.
Grabbed you a sandwich. Out the door. Didn't come back till you heard Pop's car come home.
Yeah.
Ran in and eat. Then you go back outside and play till it was dark.
Yeah. I remember when we lived at Alico, we'd run up and down them groves and down at Patrick Lake, we'd go around the lake and we were very active out there.
Yeah, we were always doing something. Exercising, running, walking.
Yeah, bicycling.
I mean, from the time I guess I could walk until I actually bought my first car, I couldn't tell you how many miles or hundreds of miles that I walked.
Excuse me.
Because it was nothing for me to walk 10 miles
Yeah.
to the store, get something, and walk 10 miles back.
Oh. Well, where did you start learning carpentry?
My first carpentry was when I was probably 18 years old. I was 18 years old. I had just gotten married, and I'd bought a house and found out my wife was pregnant again. An accident. But anyhow, and a 2-bedroom house wasn't going to cut it.
Yeah.
So I decided that I needed to close in the carport and make a 3rd bedroom. So my grandfather, who was down in Florida because he'd been diagnosed with cancer and he was going through his treatments, and he was doing a little bit better, but the doctors kept telling him, take it easy. I knew he was a carpenter, so I had gone over one day and asked him. I said, I have the money to get the material, you have the tools. What I need for you to do is teach me how to put this room on. I don't want you to do the work. I want you to sit there and instruct me, and I will pay you for this. And he thought about it for a couple of days, and he come over to the house one day, and he says, all right, here's the deal. You pay me $200. I'm going to put a chair over here underneath this tree in the shade, and if I tell you to stop, that's wrong. Stop what you're doing and figure out what you did wrong.
Yeah.
And I'd ask certain questions, and then he would answer them. But he'd make me stare at it for a little while to figure out what I was doing wrong.
Huh.
I mean, he gave me the basics. And I literally closed this in, carpeted it, put a third or second bathroom out there, the whole 9 yards. He even showed me how to build a bay window that my wife could sit in, that the sun would come in. It was a beautiful window.
Wow.
And it's still on the house today.
Wow.
But that's when was my first experience with carpentry. Now, I had been learning by watching different carpenters and how they worked and things through the job I had with First Federal Savings as a construction loan inspector. I had learned what I needed to know and what stages they had to be to, what had to be done to that stage before they could get another payment draw to continue building the house. And I got pretty good at it, and that's why I figured, okay, if I've learned this much and know what it should look like, then I should be able to build this myself.
Yeah.
And it took me a little over a month to do it, with his help.
Yeah.
Because there were days he couldn't come over, he didn't feel good.
Yeah.
So I'd have to wait for him, and I eventually got a little more skilled, and after a few years I decided, well, I want to kind of do a handyman type work. Because I hate an office job with a passion.
Yeah.
I just don't like sitting behind a desk watching the world go by outside. I enjoyed being out in the world. So I resigned from my job, had a little savings saved up, and I started a handyman business where I move travel trailers, build porches, decks, things like that, add a few rooms here and there. And I got better and better at it. Because if I had a problem with something, I would go talk to one of the carpenter buddies or constructor that I had made while I worked for the bank and get their advice on how to correct an issue that I was having. And most of them were pretty willing to talk to me. From there, I would watch people do things, do it at my house, do remodeling and things like that, and learn and get better and better. I think it was in 1993, either 1993 or 1994, I decided I wasn't going to do mechanic work anymore because I'd gotten my license and was a certified mechanic for quite a few years there and made a good living at it. But I didn't want to do that anymore because most of the cars were going with all the electronics, and I was going to have to go back to school and spend thousands more dollars to get re-educated on how to work on those. And I just didn't see the need in it. So one of my sisters had a husband that built kitchens and bathrooms, custom kitchens, custom bathrooms. So I approached him and asked him if he would allow me to be his apprentice at a lower wage, standard apprentice wages at the time, and learn the skill. He talked to his wife, and after about a week, he called and said, if you want to do this, you start on Monday. Be at this address where my shop is, and we'll teach you how to be a cabinet man. Now, to start with, I did a lot of sweeping, I did a lot of holding on different things while he assembled stuff. Cabinets are bigger cabinets where you need two hands to put it together, or two sets of hands. Helping him move heavier stuff after it was built off the tables and get it over into the trucks, get it loaded, unloaded from the trucks into the house, and being his assistant, bringing him tools, bringing him this, bringing him that while he was installing them. A little over a year later, I had gotten proficient enough at it that when he'd turn around and go to ask for a tool, I'd already be holding it, handing it, reaching out to give it to him. And we got a lot faster at it because I already knew what he needed. Then in about 2 years, he cut me loose on the saw, because by then I was cutting out cabinets. He was still assembling them. He had turned me loose to, he says, here's a set of drawings for a kitchen. I want you to cut it out, build it, and go install it. So I did. He came in to do the inspection, found one flaw in it. And he explained to me, he said, this is a flaw that only I would have seen. The homeowners would never have found it. He said, but it is a flaw. We'll correct this for the next time around, but you're doing good. And after that, I would build and install them by myself.
Wow.
Which I enjoyed that more than anything. Because you were in a different house twice a week. You'd go out Monday and Tuesday and part of Wednesday to one job, then Wednesday or Thursday, Friday, and Saturday you'd go to another job. Because you could tear it out in one day and reinstall it in about a day and a half. Sometimes one day, depending on whether or not it was a large kitchen. One of the larger kitchens would take 2 to 5 days in, depending on how intricate it was. The longest one I ever had was for a mansion that took 3 months to install.
Wow.
Because this kitchen was the size of this house behind me.
Good gracious.
With walk-in pantries. I mean, every custom feature you could think of. And it took 2 of us 3 months to install this kitchen.
My goodness.
And that got to be a tedious job after a little while.
I bet.
I mean, getting the cabinets in was not the issue. We got that done within a few weeks. But putting all the little intricate moldings and stuff that had to go along with it, making sure they were right. One of them, one part of a wall we had to take back out because it actually belonged behind us on that wall.
Oh no.
So we had to carefully get it off there, turn it around, put it on that wall. But most of the pieces were so similar that we didn't even notice it until we were almost halfway through that side. It's like, oh crap, these go over there.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I said, then you have to carefully get it back off, go back up, put it back on the other side. Because if you damaged any of it, it came out of your pocket.
Yeah, yeah.
When I stopped doing that type of work was in 2007. I was building custom countertops at a place called Southeastern Kitchens, and I was having some back trouble, and I got where I couldn't stand up all day long and lift the heavy objects. So I pretty much had to retire then, because like I said, it was getting to the point where at about noontime I just couldn't stand up anymore. And I built up quite a bit of savings, and I managed to last until around the middle of 2009 before I ran out of money.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you were in the military at one time too, weren't you?
yeah, I did a 2-year stint in the military. Unfortunately, I was dishonorably discharged. I had a lieutenant out of uniform insult me downtown Fayetteville one day. And he wouldn't go away when I kept asking him, sir, you're out of uniform, please go away. You're not allowed to give me orders. Well, he decided he was going to get in my face. Well, you don't do that to a 19, 20-year-old. I popped him in the nose, broke his nose.
Oh.
Well, the colonel I worked for, and the reason I was downtown, convinced him that if he pressed charges, because he wanted me put in stockade, and the colonel convinced him if he pressed charges, he'd ship his sorry butt to Alaska for the next 30 years.
Oh.
Put him in somewhere up around Nome, where you only get a visitor once a year.
Oh my goodness.
Well, he didn't want to do that, but he did get transferred out within a month. And I had to take a general discharge and be mustered out.
Oh.
So I accepted my terms, and I realized I should not have hit that officer, even though he excuse my language. Some of them can be.
Yeah, I remember they.
I mean, I'd taken a lot of abuse from the drill sergeants when I first enlisted, because I enlisted in the infantry. And they are not nice guys.
No, they aren't.
Not during boot camp.
Uh-uh.
I mean, they would insult you every second of every waking minute of the day.
Yeah, get in your face.
Yeah, get right in your face and scream at you. But they knew how not to spit at you.
Yeah.
I don't know how they figured that out, but they did. But this lieutenant was right in my face spitting.
Ew.
And, couldn't take it.
I don't
Because it was already in summer. It was August in Fayetteville, 105 degrees in the shade, if you could find any.
Uh-huh.
I'm in full dress uniform, and these uniforms are wool.
Yeah.
I was hot. I was miserable. And I had been standing in that sun for just a little over an hour, waiting on the colonel. And I was just not in a good mood. Because I wasn't allowed to sit in the car with the air conditioner on. I had to stand next to the car.
Dang.
My job was to watch that car and make sure nobody bothered it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that was a miserable day.
Yeah.
Because I spent the next 3 weeks on the back side of the camp at I don't even remember what they called it now, but it's where they processed you out.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, your granddaddy was my granddaddy too, Granddaddy Day.
Right.
He's my first cousin. His mom and my mom are sisters.
Right.
So that's how we're related. And Donnie has become a very close friend.
Had I known earlier that they needed help here, I would have been here a lot sooner. But
Yeah.
nobody said anything. I didn't find out until last year when we needed someone to drop Mom off at for a couple of weeks while we were moving to North Carolina. Because we didn't really visit that often, and when we were here visiting, nobody would say anything.
Yeah, well, Mama's...
But when I came in, and I noticed that there was so much work that needed to be done, and then at that time I found out that Marie was going through some medical issues of her own, and she couldn't keep up with it either. And it's like, well, look, I called my sisters in North Carolina and said, look, we're staying a little longer than anticipated, because I was supposed to drive down on Friday, pick Mom up, and drive back on Saturday. I didn't do it. We ended up staying another 14 days.
Yeah.
So that I could help get some yard cleanup work done, because you couldn't even see the house. The place was so overgrown.
Yeah. That was the time that I was going through chemo and radiation and all. And I was sick.
Yeah. And you could tell it from the way, just her mannerisms, that she didn't feel good. She didn't have any strength. And she's doing everything she can to keep the inside of the house from falling apart.
Yeah.
She just couldn't get to the outside.
No.
But anyhow, I after I dropped Mom off up there, I waited about, about a month, and I came back. And I spent another month here helping to clean up what I had cut and all, because she never got a chance to drag it all off. It was still right where I had cut it.
I'm sorry, I just wasn't able.
And then
I did do a little bit,
yeah,
but I wasn't.
She did some work right around the front door and was working her way out, but she wasn't moving it at a, what I would call a normal pace because of her medical conditions. So I spent some time here and got the yard cleaned back up, all the hedges trimmed, and pressure washed the house. And my aunt wanted to know if there was any possibility that I could build a porch on the back of the house for her. But they had one out here that was, I would say, what, 5 years old?
No, it was older than that.
This part. That is. But it was old enough that it was already starting to decay.
Yeah.
And she wanted it redone. Well, when I started to pull the top layer off, the entire thing did like the porch out there. It just collapsed.
Yeah.
So I went and got all the material and rebuilt a whole new porch, put a nice roof on it, screened it in, put lattice work around it, put a ceiling fan up, ran some electricity out here, and gave them a place they could come and sit during the day without the mosquitoes toting them off, and have some shade.
Yeah.
Because it had no roof over it before.
Right.
And
it is so nice.
And it also, this wall behind me is my aunt's bedroom. This wall would get so hot that she could not stay in that room.
Yeah.
Well, since this has been up, she doesn't have to do anything because it's cooler in there.
Yeah, she doesn't have to leave the room if she don't want to.
Yeah. When I came back this year, I cleaned up this porch, tore out all of the other two porches because they were at two different levels, rebuilt them all one level just a hair below this one, screened it in, opened up a bigger hole here because the camera's actually sitting in the opening.
Yeah.
And made this one large porch, because what we've done now is we've got the grill up there. We've got a gas grill with a burner on it that we're going to put up here also. I've got to build a range hood to draw the smoke out. I've installed a sink, a countertop and a sink on the far end down there to make the outdoor kitchen. So when she starts getting her canning done, she doesn't have to heat up the kitchen in the house.
Yes.
Because that gets hot.
Yeah, I am so glad. Oh.
The look on her face when the first time she actually grilled out here was worth all the work.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. It's awesome.
Plus we have a space where my aunt can sit here and do her potting and things for her flower beds in the shade.
Uh-huh.
So she doesn't have to get out in that hot sun.
Yeah.
We have a chick brooder cage right here where we can raise the chicks until they're old enough to put in with the bigger birds.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a nice place. A few weekends back, Faith's son and daughter-in-law and their kids came over, and there was children playing and adults talking and plenty of room.
Yes. And we had a good time.
And that was the idea by doing it the way I did.
Yeah.
It's give it enough room for everybody to sit here and visit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it turned out to be quite a nice weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so nice that one of the boys didn't want to leave. He got upset because they had to go home.
Yeah.
He really enjoyed himself.
Yeah, he spent most of his time admiring the chicks, going out and just watching the bigger birds, exploring the property. Because before they got here, between Marie and myself, we've gotten everything all the way through the property mowed down, cleared out, so that you can actually walk around the property and enjoy the view.
Yeah.
There's still work to do, don't get me wrong.
Yes, plenty of work.
But the property looks a lot better.
Yes, it does.
We've gotten a lot cleaned up. Marie, when being sick, she would work a little while, and whatever she was doing, she'd just leave right there. Never pick it back up, go do something else, leave it there, go do this, leave it there. And I'm not saying she's a bad person. It's just, we had to kind of retrain her.
Yeah.
Do this project. When you're finished, pull all your tools, put them in the wagon, move over to the next project.
Yeah, yeah. And I've gotten better at that. My mentality was, I'm going to leave this here because I'm going to come back to it.
Yeah.
You know, but anyway.
But this time when I came in, the first thing I did was closed in one half of the one of the sheds out here. He had two lean-tos out each side, one out each side. I closed in one side to put all the equipment in. Back the garden tractor, the Aunt Carolyn's yard tractor, the new zero-turn tractor, the trailers, the tillers, the plows, all that equipment is now parked up underneath that cover. There's also ladder hooks all along the wall that all the ladders are hanging on.
Yeah, I need to get one more hook for one more ladder.
Yeah.
Daddy had a lot of ladders.
Yeah, the man loved 6-foot ladders for some reason because he's got 6 of them.
And then he's got a 8-foot ladder.
8-foot ladder and a 25-foot extension ladder.
Yeah. Yep.
But I started putting hooks up for her to hang all the garden tools underneath there. We took the third overhang, closed a part of it off, and built a workstation under there so that when we need to service the tiller, the tractor, or anything like that, we can pull it up under there. You've got a bench on one side. There will be eventually a bench on the other side so that you can keep the tools and equipment on and work on that piece of machinery until it's repaired and then pull it out. It's also a good place you can set up her sawhorses and do some woodwork.
Yeah.
Because she built this brooder out there.
Yes.
And it was very nice to be able to work in the shade in August.
Yeah, it was.
With the heat that there was, you'd have a breeze blowing through in the shade, so you weren't sitting there just dying from the sun.
Yeah. And now I'm working on the chicken coop for the Silkies.
Yeah.
And I've got the floor completely done. And I'm working on the walls, and it has become a tedious job because I'm having to take these pallets apart
And rebuild them before she could use them.
Yes.
She asked me to let her build it because with the knowledge that I've given her, which reminds me, sometime tomorrow we need to set the string out there for the greenhouse.
Yes.
Before I leave.
Yes.
I'll be leaving early Saturday morning.
Okay.
And if we don't do that, we won't get it done.
Right. Yeah.
But anyhow, she asked me if I would please let her do it, and she said if I got any questions, I'll come get you. And it's very hard for me to just not walk out and stare at it and go, no, you're not doing that right. Like the way I was taught.
Yeah. Yeah.
But luckily I could walk over to the counter over there where the sink is, and I can stand there and look out where she's working. And I'll see her out there. She'll start to get a little frustrated, so I'll mosey out there. How's it going? I got a question.
Yeah.
And she was out there with a pry bar, just prying on those boards and not having any success. And I walked over and I said, bring them back over to the shed over here. I broke out a Sawzall, put a nice metal blade on it, showed her how to go up under the board and just cut the nails. Then flip the board over and take another nail, drive that nail down to so you can pull it out. She can take the pallets apart now in no time at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten fed up with trying to pull them apart.
Yeah, it's just so much easier to cut the nails, drive them out. She's got a nice pile of rusty nails now.
Yeah, I do. My goodness.
Some of those nails are have glue on them, and they don't want to come back out.
They
of that
don't.
wood.
They don't.
And if you try to get them out, you split the boards up.
Yeah, and I need those boards. I need them
So
so I can reuse them.
You know, it's just, I was just showing her little tricks, and here's an easy way to do it. And the pallet's all in pieces. And you start again. You set them 3 boards, and you put them both down and screw them back down, or nail them back down, however you want to do it.
Yeah. You know what I did though? This last pallet I was working on, I was intent. Now I had that sawzall just a humming and carrying on. And I got down to the last 2 boards, and I said, wait a minute. I need them to hold the frame so I can do the other end.
That's one of the things I told her.
Yeah.
Leave the last 2 boards in so the frame doesn't rack it.
Yeah.
Start back on the other end, putting some new ones on, then cut those 2 off.
Right. Yeah, I almost screwed up, but I remember what you told me.
But it makes it a lot easier to rebuild them because she wants the boards close together instead of having that little separation in them. Because they are walls, and we don't want the birds to get out or predators to get in.
Yes. Don't want the bugs and skeeters in there either.
And what she's going to do with that is once she's got the walls up, we've got some nice thick cardboard. She's going to staple that to the inside walls to help keep the warmth in there during the winter.
Yes.
Now, she might have to go in next year after they scratched a little bit of it off and cut down and replace a few pieces, but that's easier to do than putting all of it back up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But I've actually enjoyed, I feel more confident than I've ever felt in my entire life.
And she's been driving a truck around for how many years now?
I don't know. It's been several.
It's been several years. And the driver's window wouldn't roll down.
It never rolled down. When I bought it, that window didn't roll down.
Well, she had the part to fix it.
Yeah.
It just never got fixed.
No.
Well, last week I finally got around to that project. And she wasn't there when I did that, but she comes back around about, 45 minutes later?
Yeah.
It says, how's it going? And I reached up, hit the button, and the window rolled down. Hit the button, and it rolled back up.
I was excited. I was beside myself.
She's got to get used to the truck now and being able to roll the window down.
Oh, I went by Dunkin' Donuts this morning to get me a cup of coffee after my doctor's appointment. Oh, it was nice to roll that window down and hand that guy that money for my coffee.
Before she'd have to open the door and pull up a little further and then reach out there to give him the money.
Yeah, I don't have to do that no more.
Getting the mail out of the mailbox. You go past the mailbox, open the door, put it in reverse, back up to the mailbox, get the mail out, drive forward, close the door, go in the driveway.
That is not a lie. That is not a lie. Kid you not.
Oh, Lord. First time she did that, it's like, why, what's wrong with the window? Oh, it doesn't work.
But I got the part back there in the back of the...
Yeah, that's what she said. I've got the new part back there. I don't know how to put it in.
And I watched YouTube and learned how to put it in, but I didn't have the materials and the way my hands shake. I just didn't know.
It would have been one of these projects where she would have been several days trying to figure out how to get that regulator out of that door.
Yeah.
The first thing is it's pop riveted in.
Yeah.
So she would have had to have figured out, wait, what do I have to do here? Come back in, watch the video, realize you got to drill out those rivets.
Yeah.
Well, the way those rivets were put in there, I had to actually drill the center out, get the back piece to come off. The regulator popped into the door, but that piece of pop rivet has to come out of that door as well. So I had to get a pair of vice grips and squash it, wiggle it, and pull it out of the door, so that I could put new nuts and bolts and washers to hold the regulator and motor in the door when I put it back in.
Yeah.
But then you've also got to slide it off the end of the track, turn it down, turn it sideways, pull it up, roll it upside down to get it out of that little hole.
Holy crap.
Because that was actually put in the panel before the door skins were welded together. That's the way they come down the assembly line.
Wow.
They've got the regulator that they lay down in the bottom of the door, put the skin up there, it goes through the welder, then another person will pick it up and pop rivet it to the piece, then the glass is slid into it and everything's put together. But it goes down an assembly line like that.
Yeah.
But you can get it out of there if you know how to twist and rotate.
I even bought a rivet gun with rivets but I didn't know if I'd gotten the right size.
And I'd forgotten she had that. But I did realize afterwards, because I was looking for bolts, I saw it up there and I heard, well, I can probably rivet it back in, but they were too small.
Oh, okay.
You needed the bigger ones.
Oh, okay, okay.
All she had there was what came with the rivet gun when she bought it,
Yeah.
which was 4 small size sets. She would have had to gone back to the store and gotten the bigger ones and used the bigger die
Okay,
to get those in there.
okay.
But I scrounged up 4 nice short screws, washers, and what have you, and got everything put back together and tightened up good. And it works beautifully.
Well, I just wanted to make you guys familiar with who he is and where he's come from,
And I'll be back probably in. I'm hoping to come back in January because we've got some winter work that we need to get done, and she's going to need some help with that.
yeah,
So, and there's nothing to do up there because most of that my sisters have running fairly smooth, so they don't really need my help. So I can come back down here and be the second set of hands that she needs here.
yeah,
With Aunt Carolyn at 80 years of age, she doesn't get around too good anymore.
yeah,
And she hurt her shoulder the other day
yeah,
putting dishes away.
yeah. Now, mind you, we're talking about a woman that all her life she's worked really hard, and it's the wear and tear is showing on her body.
Yeah.
And the plates that she was putting up. Now, I've watched her do this. Hey.
You two knock it off.
But I've watched her do this, and
These guys are playing.
yeah,
My dog and her cat.
and I mean those plates are heavy, and we're
they're,
not
they're
talking
heavy
about
ceramic plates.
yeah,
And each plate probably weighs 2 pounds apiece.
yeah.
And she probably
She had a whole stack of
There were
them.
3 or 4, maybe more of them there. She's trying to lift them up over her head and put them in the cabinet.
Mhm.
And we keep telling her, just leave them on the counter. One of us will put them away.
Yeah.
Well, her stubbornness got to her, and she thought she could do it. And she hurt herself.
Yeah, we think she's hyperextended a couple
The shoulder
muscles. Yeah.
muscles.
So now
I'm
she's
pretty
having
sure
to hold
those
her
plates
arm.
got a little off balance, and she tensed up to catch them, and it strained that muscle.
Yeah. And then she hurt her back the day before. She's
Yeah.
got 2 knots on her lower back where she hurt her back, and she's in a lot of pain.
Yeah, we had a little chat last night, and I explained to her because I know she feels like she's being a burden to the rest of us,
But she's
not. I mean, you've led a long, prosperous life, and you have kids here that will help you, younger people, because we're not that much younger, but we are younger. And we have our issues too.
Yeah.
But at the same token, if I don't have to empty the whole dishwasher, I have no problem just setting some plates and bowls up in the top shelf on the cabinet.
Yeah, yeah.
I just hate doing the silverware, that tedious task of putting that silverware in that drawer.
But the thing is, I got a system for that. If everybody would cooperate, you put the forks in the first bin, the knives in the next bin, and the spoons in the next, and then
Yeah.
you put the big.
Guys, that's where only the woman knows how to load the dishwasher.
Yeah. And that way, all you got to do is grab all the forks, put them where they go. All the knives, put them where they go.
The comedian Billy Ball said it best. They have a certain way that the dishwasher has to be loaded, and we don't know it.
But anyway, we appreciate y'all coming along and enjoying our chat. And I hope you've enjoyed learning about Mr. Harris. But you guys have a great weekend. He's leaving early Saturday morning. Today's Thursday
She's
night.
going to be doing a few more of the coffee times. I won't be in the next few, or at least the next one. I'm hoping that we can do a split screen for the following one, because I think we figured out how to do that. So hopefully I can have some more of the family involved in it.
Yes.
my sister's mother, things like that.
Yeah.
Up in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to go back. My sisters have a chore list for me to do.
A honey-do list.
So, and I'm sure it's all the heavy lifting that they can't get done.
Right. Right.
They save all of that for me. And some of it I have to use the truck to do because I can't lift it.
Yeah. But
And it drives them nuts when I get the truck and start driving around on the yard. It's like, but you're messing up the grass. And it's like, well, I can't pick it up, so the truck's going over there.
yeah. Oh, you know those guys stacked up firewood
Yeah,
out there.
yeah. I thought you saw that.
I did this
If
afternoon.
I asked him to.
Oh. Well, I'm gonna take one.
The power line cutting crew came through yesterday and this morning, and I had asked them any of the larger limbs and trees where they had to top them to get under the power lines, if they would cut it into smaller pieces and leave it there, I'd appreciate it. Because they were more concerned about us getting angry because they were cutting the hedges. It's like, oh no, cut them all down. Because that was one of the jobs I had to do, and I just didn't get to this time.
Yeah.
But luckily, they came through yesterday and did it for me.
Yeah, they topped off all the red tips.
Shredders there and got rid of all the
Oh,
trash.
they got it all nice and
Oh,
raked
it's
out
beautiful
there.
out there. We actually have a street light that we can see by now.
Uh-huh.
the tree had grown up around it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it looks very nice out there now. When you come in, they left a couple of limbs hanging straight out over the road, and when I come back in January, the trees will be dormant, and I can trim them, and they'll be fine.
Yeah,
And make the front of the driveway look really nice.
yeah.
But luckily, there's not just but 4 or 5 of them that are sticking out like that.
Yeah,
They had cut the rest of them.
yeah.
So, but it looks good up there now.
It does, it does.
And I cut around the side over here where we had what was supposed to be a hedge bush. It was a variegated ligustrum hedge that was 10 feet tall. So I kind of...
It had really bushed out too.
Yeah, I cut it off at the ground so that next year when it comes back, we can start shaping it as a hedge again.
Yeah, yeah.
It's already got its roots established, and this wasn't the ideal time to cut it, but it's still got some new growth on it and what have you. So hopefully it'll survive through the winter and we can have a nice little hedge next spring.
Yeah.
Next to that shed.
Right. At least now you can get through there without being tackled by leaves and limbs.
Yeah, that was one of the issues I had when I first got here. You couldn't walk around any building here.
Yeah.
I mean, you could not get up next to the house. You couldn't go around any of the sheds. The plants had just overtaken everything.
Yeah.
And we had a pile of debris out here in the front that it took me 4 days of burning to burn it off.
Yeah.
And I've gotten it now where we go out and we make 2 or 3 smaller piles. We have one on the fire that we start out small. Marie had an issue once before where it got away from her. So she learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah, I don't start fires unless I absolutely have to now.
But I've shown her over the summer how to do the smaller ones so that they don't get out of hand. And keep a water hose handy when you're there with the fire too.
Well, the thing is, I had a water hose then.
But you had such a big pile that the intensity grew too fast.
Yeah, it did. It just
got too hot, too fast, and there was no way to control
Yeah.
it. So you get a smaller fire that's there and hot, but yet you can still spray some water in it and cool it down quicker.
Yeah. That fire that he's talking about burnt down Mama's old greenhouse. It went out into the woods and burnt half of the wood. They had to bring special equipment out to
cut fire breaks and stop it.
Yeah, and they was running all over the yard trying to stop this fire. I was doing everything I could just to keep it off the house.
Yeah.
And I burnt my feet, and it was a mess.
A bad day.
Yes, it was.
And of course, then the neighbor, not too long afterwards, set his woods on fire. He didn't learn a lesson.
Yeah. Anyway.
We have it now where there's nothing around it that can burn, and keep the pile smaller so
Yeah.
that you can control it better.
Yeah. He's even tilled around the burn pile.
Yes, I did.
So
I keep a dirt berm around the burn pile so that when you're burning, the embers don't pop out of there when they do pop and set the grass on fire.
yeah. Yeah. So, oh, and the tiller is fixed.
Yeah, we got new motor, new belts. Everything works beautifully now.
Yes.
I haven't had a chance to test it out. Marie's probably going to get the first test on it.
Hey, that's fine. I know right where I'm going with it.
My time here is running out too quickly.
Yeah.
I don't really want to go home yet, but I've got to.
Yeah. We've really enjoyed having him here. I don't know what we're going to do without him, but we'll get through it. No biggie.
Yeah. Hopefully 3 months from now I'll be back.
I'm glad. I'm looking forward to it already. My goodness.
Being in the cooler months, I'm able, even for the last 2 weeks, it's been cooler during the day. It does get up late, around 2 o'clock, get warmer, and I have to slow down a little bit during that time because I get a little hot. But I've been able to go out and work for a little while and rest a minute and work and rest and work and rest, but get more work done.
Yeah.
Because I've cleared every bit of the stuff I had cut over the summer, working 2 or 3 hours in the morning each morning, cutting. I've managed to get it all up in piles next to the burn pile, and then over the last couple of days I've burned it off.
Yeah.
So it's looking really good around here.
It is. It is. Thanks to Mr. Harris.
We've gotten a lot of the flower beds cleaned out so that they can be replanted next spring.
I did that.
My aunt has what she calls a Texas rose. Well, last year I thought it was a weed.
Oh.
And I cut it down.
Oh.
Oh, did I get myself chewed out.
Yes, you did. Royally.
I mean, they fumed at me for days around here. But I had no way of knowing. And I had asked them, come out and show me what you want to cut. But nobody came out. So I took it upon myself to cut the weeds out. Luckily, it came back with a vengeance. It has had some of the most beautiful flowers on it you ever want to see.
Yeah. He even cut one of Mama's pretty rose bushes out here in the lily garden. It is coming back. It looks prettier than it did before.
Yep. Which is something you need to do this winter. Trim those back like I did this one, so that this spring they will bush back out and put the nice flowers back on.
Yeah, I probably should do the ones in the front.
Do the ones out front too, yes.
Yeah.
And you should do that every year. Like I said, the crepe myrtles right over here, cut them off at about 8 inches above the ground. Out here by the pond. And let it come back as a smaller hedge.
Okay.
And we'll keep it trimmed then every year so that it's a smaller bush instead of that giant tree blocking the view. We have the cedars to block the view. But we want the flowers to stay low around the pond.
Okay, I got you. All right.
The rest of the trees around the house, all the crepe myrtles, those can stay tall. You cut them 6 to 8 feet, then let them come back, and they came back this year beautifully too.
They did.
There's never been as much color around here because they never knew to cut them.
Yeah, we didn't know.
I mean, yes, they'd go dormant. Then all the sprouts would come out, but there'd be so much dead wood in it that they couldn't really do anything.
Yeah.
And I chopped them all down last fall, and they just came back with a vengeance.
They're really pretty.
And I've had to trim a few of them back away from the house because the limbs would grow out. And the idea is to keep them off the house.
Yeah.
I started last year shaping all the hedge bushes that are along the driveway. Those are starting to look really good again.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyhow, it's been nice talking to you. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for being here.
See ya.